anyone who had it in their pocket, they exploded. So yeah, I've known for a while they've had that technology to take out everybody. And here we are live right now. We're live in so many places, folks. I've got Dan Rogers with Dan Rogers Tells It Like It Is. And I'm so glad that he does. This guy has restored my hope in our electoral system. There's a way to get it back to the local level. And Dan, the man, can tell you how. Yes, he is the Republican chair of Potter County and has had quite a long history in helping patriots vote. And he's got some good news for us. But I'm very grateful for this man. Dan Rogers, how you doing there, sir?
Doing great.
Dan, I'm really glad that we met. You've given a lot of people hope. You're already on Spotify, Dan Rogers. If you look it up, folks, Dan Rogers, Tell It Like It Is. And of course, you'll see more promos too with Dan Rogers Tells It Like It Is. People miss the good old call-in shows. You're going to see that tonight on Channel 20 in Amarillo and all the 36 counties there. You're going to see it on cable networks across the country on multiple different channels. You'll see it online, Facebook pages in multiple cities, YouTube as well. There's a page that's been flying under the radar for several years now that we created called We the Media. You can look at it and you'll see it there. We're actually live on that right now as well. Started that with a friend in Australia when all this started happening with the mandates, the pandemic, the censorship, you name it. All was a part of this last election in 2020. And I tell you, Dan has encouraged me and a caller, Ronnie Kenyon from the Amarillo area. There is a way, but we got to get away from these voting machines, Dan, as you have said. And it's already in place to go back to the paper ballots. We're the only country foolish enough of our kind to still use the voting machines. So with that said, Dan, what do you think about this latest thing, this latest shooter, the second Democrat shooter, and the second Democrat shooter on a BlackRock commercial at that, attempting to get past our Secret Service? What a great job they do with allowing these people so close to President Trump. What do you think about that, my man?
Well, I've been out preg checking cows, so I haven't really thought too much about it, except I'm glad they caught him before he pulled off any rounds.
Yeah.
But, these people are just evil and they can't compete with ideas. So they're trying to kill us. And Trump represents all of us business people, conservative voters in America. So when they take a shot at Trump, they're really taking a shot at us. And almost all violence is perpetrated by the left. And if you look throughout history, whether it's the Bolsheviks in Russia or the people in the French Revolution or whoever, it's always the leftists that create the violence.
Right.
And the average person is good. They don't want violence. I don't want violence. That's why I want it. And I think a lot of it is, it all comes down to our foundational principles. And we have to get back to hand marked, self authenticated, tangible ballots that can be verified. I keep saying, I want ballots, not bullets.
Right.
But I think the left wants a civil war. And that's how they gain power, is through chaos.
Right.
And we want order. We want law and order. We want people to follow the law and the Constitution and the rule of law. And when all that breaks down, that's when you have civil war and you have chaos. And, whoever wins ends up rewriting history. So I don't want it to come to that. So what I think we need to do is we need to get involved locally in our communities and keep bad things from happening in our local communities. You know, if they did that in Palm Beach where this guy was, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But the people need to show up at their city council meetings, their county commissioners meetings, and their school board meetings. And it doesn't take a lot of people to do it. I think if you had just 0.5% of the registered voters in every county, which isn't very many people, show up at these meetings, we would transform America. I talked to a person yesterday who's interested in coming to work for us, and she's a school administrator, 41 years old, and quit because of how bad and woke the school system's getting to be.
Right, right.
And she's knocking down $100,000 a year as a vice principal.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, no wonder my property taxes are so high. But what she said, and we were talking about, I was telling her how, you know, what I'm trying to do is to educate and inform voters so they understand what they can do to help solve the problem. And she says, well, when you all did that and got people to show up at our school board meetings, it made a massive difference. And there
Wow.
wasn't that many people that showed up, but because
Wow.
they showed up, they reconfigured the curriculum, they read through the books, they saw what was going on and made some positive changes. And it's because we had a handful of people show up at our school board meetings. So a very few people can be very impactful. But if nobody shows up, then there's a vacuum. And where there's a vacuum, that's where evil seeps in. It's just sucked in. And all we got to do is show up. We don't even have to say much. So we got to show up at these meetings. And what I'm going to try to do is kind of help create a movement and do what I can do to help people understand what they need to do, where they need to show up. And I think if we do that, it's probably the most important thing we can do.
Well, it's been said that the enemy of the best is the good. The enemy of the best is the good. You can do a lot of good things. You can share your memes and be angry. That's good, but you need to vote. 34 million evangelicals did not vote in 2020. You don't have to be an evangelical, but for God's sake, vote. And 10 million of them haven't even registered yet. So much can happen on the local level. You saw how local governments fought Trump. Well, we can play that game too. We can fight regardless the Marxist puppet. Right now, a woman, we want a woman president. Hey, a woman president controlled by elite Marxists is not a woman president. It's just another puppet with a dress.
Well, to me, that's a very sexist thing to say.
I know.
Me, I want a competent president.
Exactly.
I don't even am concerned that much about their personal beliefs or ideology. I want somebody who's capable and competent and
Me
can
too.
make good decisions in under duress. And that's the mark of competency.
Yeah.
And that's all. So I think people get hung up on personalities and gender and race.
They do.
Nobody cares what color you are, what gender you are, or what you think you are. What they care about is what you're capable of and whether or not you make good decisions under duress.
Right. And, I have to say that I really believe that civil war is what they want. They want, once again, like they've always done, they want the black community fighting the white community. And then they want their third world thugs to try to finish off who's left over. They want a civil war, order out of chaos. And, when Kamala says she wants a plan, well, Kamala does have a plan to drive the country into the ditch, and then to rebuild it as a Marxist society. Just look at the policies. You mentioned it doesn't matter if it's a woman or not. Hey, Kristi Noem, the only governor that defied all of the mandates, if she ran for president, I'd vote for her. I think she'd be definitely presidential material. But we have Trump, and folks, you're not voting for a personality. You vote the policies. It's either communism or it's conservatism. It's really that simple. Look at the policies that got us here. You talked about inflation the other day on the call-in show. Did you know, citizens, your voice can be heard when you call in to Dan Rogers Tells It Like It Is? You can do that. You make contact with us. Go to We the People townsquare.com. Download the free app. I'm amazed that we're still on Facebook right now. DeFear, it seems us to censor everything that we do. If you're patriotic, all of a sudden you find yourself in censorship land. Well, Dan Rogers Tells It Like It is not limited to Facebook. It's on broadcast, again, television over the air, cable, and more. But you need to go to We the People townsquare.com and download the free app. Download the free app on your app store from your phone right now. It's free. You can literally sign up for it in less than a minute. And you can also get this news. Dan, you've been interviewing candidates for quite some time now, finding out where they stand and looking at the records, of candidates. And so it's really, really important that people understand, but they got to make the time. They can't be distracted. Hey, I know Johnny's football games are important, but you need to find out equally important are those school board meetings and find out what kind of garbage they're trying to force down your child's throat. Or
The only people,
yeah,
the only people that need to go to school board meetings are people who have children in school or people who pay property taxes.
right.
And that's the rest don't matter.
Yeah. Well, people forget public school systems get paid for your child being in school. Did you know that? So if you're like, hey, I'm not going to keep my kid in this, if you're taking millions from China with your Confucius centers that are in all of our universities.
Well, all this stuff can be gotten rid of very simply with just a different way of looking at it and doing
Right.
away with property taxes, which we do not need. It's another ruse on the voters, and
Right.
they convince people that it's a reasonable thing to do, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I have a much better concept, and I have a lot of background in property taxes. Number one, I'm a large property owner and have been for 30 years here in this area. And before that, in Austin, I became a tax rep, representing over 2,000 properties in Austin, ripping millions of dollars a year away from the tax assessor down there. They were just stealing people blind. The real estate market collapsed, but they wouldn't bring the values down until I went in and made them, right?
Right.
So if I didn't represent somebody, their values were left high. And so to me, that's theft, and that's wrong. So you have a bureaucracy that doesn't care, right? And I'll be going into that more because I have some ideas that popped into my head on it occurred to me what's really going on with our property tax system in Texas. And the sad thing is, the state's pretty much controlled by Republicans. So
Right.
even though I'm a Republican county chair, I'm fighting my party on a lot of these issues because once the Republicans get in there, they do the same sort of thing, and you get vested interest, and you can call it a lot of fancy names, but at the end of the day, I think it's corruption.
Right.
So they don't want to change the system because they're making money on it. I could make a fortune as a tax rep in the current system. I'm good at it. I'm really good at it. I understand value. I understand price. I understand how they're manipulating the data. And the other thing I know is that their data is wrong. So they're using wrong data. Almost all data is wrong, and everybody depends on it. And so you create a cascading series of events, and none of it is in the taxpayer's favor. It's all in the taxing jurisdiction's favor. Why do you think that is? And who's in charge of the taxing jurisdictions?
Right.
Right. So we can clean this mess up. but it's just going to take a little bit of courage and a few people to show up and join our We the People Town
Right.
Square.com app. You can use it in any browser. You can communicate with your neighbors, and you can communicate with other like-minded people, and you can post articles that interest you that you think we need to take a look at.
Right.
But my primary focus is getting rid of the electronic voting, which I believe they're stealing your vote. And we
Yes.
need to eliminate property taxes, which I believe they're stealing the equity in your home. And you
Right.
can't see it. The average people cannot see either one. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little strange, but for some reason, it just jumps right out at me. And I say, I see what they're doing here. And you have that, what is it, World Economic Forum? And they say, oh, you'll
Yeah.
own nothing and be happy.
Yes. You've
Where
been
do
on
how do
nothing,
you
Klaus
think they're going
Schwab.
to do that? They're going to do it through regulation and taxation. And
There
they're
you
going to
go.
make it to where you can't afford to own anything. And they're doing it right in front of our eyes. We
Right.
have to stop it now, or it's going to get out of control and we won't be able to stop it. Right now, I'd say in the next year, we have a chance to get this stuff done. So let's do it.
We need to do it, and we need to do it now. We're actually also streaming this live or sharing this live link that is on wethepeopletownsquare.com right now. And I'm also going to share that on some other social network mediums. This truly is the conservative alternative. You know what happened the last election. You know how many of you were censored, shut down, even for displaying an American flag. Can you imagine that? Yeah, you sure can. Under this administration. So it's important that we connect. I'm encouraged that We the People Town Square is an app that is the conservative alternative to get informed, or is like you like to say, Dan, to inform, to educate, to invite people to get along. I'm sharing this link in so many cities right now, and you need to share it too, folks. Your voice can be heard. I am excited that citizens can connect with us and let their voice be heard to ask the hard questions. Dan's not afraid to ask to answer those questions either, and I'm thrilled that he's brave enough to stand up to what's happening right now. So from Oklahoma City to Dallas to throughout Texas and beyond, we're spreading the word, and we are not afraid, and we're not ashamed. We got to do it.
My concern is that a lot of people are afraid and their intimidation tactics are working and they know they're working and that's why they use them. But we have to understand we cannot be intimidated because that doesn't work because they're going to keep coming. But if we stand up to them, I believe they will fold. And that's why they're so scared. They're scared that people are waking up. What they fear is we show up. And if we show up, they lose. And but I'm working on a bunch, several different federal lawsuits. And when I tell people, hey, I can read your ballot, and you have standing, well, they don't want to get involved. They're afraid of the government, and I'm like, you've got it wrong, dude. The government should be afraid of the people.
Government should be
If
afraid
the
of people.
people are afraid of the government, that means evil has won.
Yeah.
But all I need is a few, very few good people that have some backbone, that aren't confused about their gender, that understand right from wrong, that believes in the Ten Commandments and the Constitution, and we can take this country back. We just need a few people in every county in the state, and we can do it. And when we get done with Texas, we'll help the rest of the country.
How many we need in Amarillo, Dan? How many men?
Well, I think if we could get 100 people, that would be great. If you had 0.5% of the registered voters, that'd be about 300 roughly. And
Let's get our
but
300,
I'm
man.
happy with just a third of that. So I actually, you could probably say it's if you just had 0.1% of the registered voters in your county, we can do it. So it just doesn't take a lot of people.
I want 300. like the
I
movie.
like the 300 number. Gideon 300 sounds good to me.
Yeah, let's get him. And next time we can talk about the Rhino Hunting Club. Remember, it's not over. Rhino Hunting Club.
There you go.
I know someone who'd be interested in that. I think Shemaine Nugent and even her husband Ted Nugent, folks. You know who that is.
Well, what
We're
I'm trying to do,
Rhino.
we're trying to create some value for people so that I can create the funds needed to engage and inform and educate the voters, and I can do it, and it doesn't cost a lot, but it costs a little bit. So I'm trying to come up with ways that everybody can participate, and we don't want any donations. We believe we should earn our money. I believe we should earn our money,
Right.
and want to do it by engaging citizens that care about their community, and we'll create more value than what they give us, and everybody wins, and we save our country.
We can do it. We can do it. Be a part of the 300 men and women and these young people. I see an upsurge of these young people.
You know what we need to do is the first 300 people in a county that participate, we'll figure out a way to make them get something worth way more than that.
All right. I'm excited about it. Dan, you're a godsend. And I know you've been consistent. You are a businessman, a successful one.
Yeah, I'm an old real estate broker. So every
Yeah.
time I do a real estate transaction, I always had to figure out how can I get what everybody wants and everybody come out a winner. And some of them are very complex transactions, and you have to create the money, and you have to create the value sometimes for everybody. And that's just how I think. And I think we can do it with this too. Just have to get a little creative.
Well, you heard it, folks. Town Square, we the people, townsquare.com. And of course, go to trump.shop.
Yes.
We'll talk about Trump trailers as well. You may have a Trump trailer sighting. We may give you $100 bill if you have a Trump trailer sighting on one of these call-in shows. And, check it out, trump.shop. You want to get your Trump gear. You'll see Megan donning some of these caps as well. And of course, get that conservative alternative. We the People Town Square app. Get it right now. It's free. You'll be glad you did when they shut Facebook down. We can stand together. And I think we can get more than the Gideon 300, but be one of the 300 men and women. Aren't you sick of it? Aren't you ready to get your country back? Well, there's hope. And Dan the man is telling us how. So thank you, Dan Rogers. Appreciate you. And can't wait for the next time. But I'm grateful. Hey, Channel 20 tonight, if you're in the Permian Basin and the Panhandle as well, 5 different cities, 5 different TV towers, but in Amarillo, Channel 20, GLC, and of course, many other places as well. Go to Dallas Spotlight on Facebook. Go to other Facebook pages. We the Media, check that one out. But most importantly, download the app and go to We the People Townsquare.com. We the People Townsquare.com. Make your free account, get the latest interviews and updates and some of the live ones. Maybe you can be a live call-in. Your voice is heard. You still have a voice, folks. And we're not supposed to fear our government. They're supposed to fear us. Thank you again, Dan. We'll see you next time, folks.